What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Beansworthy Entertainment. This is part 2 of the Sunday football games in the NFL 2023 season, Week 9. I'm just a guy behind the camera saying what I think is going to happen based on what I've seen this season, watching the games and watching the highlights, and also gonna go over some statistics with you in this video. I'm gonna make a prediction based on it. With that being said, I hope that you enjoy the video. And if you do, hit that like button, please. I appreciate it a lot. And also, if you could check out the other videos and the streams on my channel, I have playlists. And if you like that content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you can get notifications when I do go live on my streams or whenever I post a video. Also, just to become a part of the Beansworthy Entertainment family. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you do. Let's go ahead and get into the games. We got 3 afternoon games and then the Sunday night football game in this video. For the first afternoon game, we have the New York Giants that are going to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Now, the New York Giants, they are ranked number 30 on NFL.com's power ranking list with a 2-6 record and last in the NFC East. The Las Vegas Raiders, they are ranked number 26 on NFL.com's power ranking list with a 3-5 record and third in the AFC West. First thing that we're going to go over is the offensive statistics. In the Giants, they have 267.9 total yards per game, 155.1 passing yards per game, and 112.8 rushing yards per game. Now, the passing yards per game, they are the worst in the league offensively. Rushing yards per game, they are 15th. Overall, they rank last in total yards per game. They only have 8 touchdowns that they've scored this year and only 11.9 points per game. That is the worst in the league. And 4 receiving, 4 rushing touchdowns. And they are tied with the Commanders, leading the league with 41 sacks allowed. The offensive line isn't doing great. Daniel Jones was out for a little bit. Tyrod Taylor got a win, but everything went back to the Giants just not doing well. Brian Daboll is struggling to keep his team together, and it's unfortunate. Saquon Barkley has had his struggles. Darren Waller's not panning out, even though, if I remember, yeah, he still is the receiving leader for the Giants offense. So I guess you could say that he is panning out, but he's probably the only thing that's actually going good for the Giants this year. I mean, Saquon is producing while he's in, but other than that, it's not that well. And the Raiders, they don't really get too much better. Aiden O'Connell came in, had his moments. Jimmy Garoppolo, it seems like he's not going to be back. So, with that being said, we got to go and pull up the Raiders stats for when I do the offensive leaders. But the numbers for the Raiders, they have 268.3 total yards per game, 198.3 passing yards per game, and 70 rushing yards per game. They have 12 touchdowns total, 8 receiving and 4 rushing, 15.8 points per game. That is 30th in the league, and they've allowed 22 sacks on offense. So it's a little bit better not allowing those sacks. But they are worse than the league when it comes to rushing yards per game, and 22nd in the league for passing yards per game, and 31st overall for yardage when it comes to offense. Turnover-wise, the Giants, they've given up 6 interceptions and 4 fumbles. The Raiders, they've given up 13 interceptions and 3 fumbles. Raiders, it's just unfortunate. Before Jimmy went out, he had 9. Aiden has 2. Brian Hoyer has 2. So, it's tough. But I'm pretty sure that we have Daniel Jones back. Let me double check that. Yep. Tyrod Taylor got put on the IR. And, according to this, it says, thought that they were preparing for a Josh McDaniels coach team, quarterbacked by Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, that's another thing that happened in the developments of this week, is that the Raiders decided to fire head coach Josh McDaniels and their general manager. So, Antonio Pierce is the guy that's going to be the interim head coach for the Raiders. Played for the Giants 2005 to 2009. And Aiden O'Connell's going to start again. Okay. So, yeah. Aiden O'Connell is going to start. As far as I see that it looks like we're going to have Daniel Jones back. Yeah. That's what it's looking like to me, is we're going to have Daniel Jones, so I just have to get Aiden O'Connell's Giants stat leaders. Got Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and Darren Waller. Raiders, we got Aiden O'Connell, Josh Jacobs, and Davante Adams. The quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, he has 104 completions on 151 attempts, 884 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Aiden O'Connell, he has 34 completions on 52 attempts, 313 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. The running backs, Saquon Barkley has 110 carries, 412 yards, and 1 touchdown. Josh Jacobs has 133 carries for 408 yards and 3 touchdowns. In receiving, Darren Waller has 36 catches, 384 yards, and 1 touchdown. Davante Adams has 47 catches, 539 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is that for the offensive stat leaders on the season. It still does show Jimmy G as the stat leader for the Raiders team, but he is inactive still, so I just am going to... That's why I gave you Aiden's stats. I'm sorry, I had an itch. Let's move forward and go into the defense. And on the Giants side, they allowed 338.9 total yards per game, 211.5 passing yards per game, and 127.4 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 19 touchdowns this year and allowed 23.4 points per game. That is tied for 22nd in the league, and the Giants defense only has 15 sacks. Going through the rankings, defensively, Giants passing defense is ranked 12th in the league. Rushing defense is ranked 24th in the league, and overall they are 20th in the league for yardage. And again, tied for 22nd for points per game allowed. I mean, got to do a little bit better. I know that it doesn't help when you have probably the worst offense in the league. I don't even know if that's technically an arguable point, especially considering the fact that they are worst in 3 out of the 5 categories, or actually 4 out of the 6, because they only have 11.9 points per game. I didn't even think of that when I was also up there. It's just, if we're going between both offenses, I'm going with the Raiders offense. But moving on, the Raiders defense, they allow 337.6 total yards per game, 197 passing yards per game, and 140.6 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 20 touchdowns this year and allowed 23.4 points per game. That is tied for 22nd as well. Another game that we have where a matchup that two teams are tied in points per game. The Raiders have 16 sacks, so one more sack than the Giants. When it comes to the league, the Raiders are ranked ninth in the league when it comes to passing yards per game, and 30th when it comes to rushing yards per game, 19th overall when it comes to yards, and again, tied for 22nd for points. Turnovers for the defense, Giants have 4 interceptions and 4 fumbles. Raiders have 6 interceptions and 2 fumbles. The Giants have 1 pick six and 1 safety. And the Raiders have 1 pick six. The turnover differential for these teams is different. The Giants actually win this one. Their turnover differential is only -2, where the Raiders have a -8 turnover differential because of all those interceptions. The Giants kicker is 11 for 17 on field goals and 8 for 8 on extra points. He has 41 points this year. The Raiders kicker has 11 for 14 field goals and 11 extra points for 44 points this year. Now we can move on to the schedule. And the Giants, they have lost to the Cowboys, 49ers, Seahawks, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets. Kind of expect that with the way that the season is folding or unfolding for the Giants. And the Giants were one of the teams coming into this year that I thought were going to be in the top half of the teams, and got proven wrong. The only teams that they've won against are the Cardinals and Commanders, which aren't anything really spectacular. Win's a win. The Raiders, their losses come from the Bills, Steelers, Chargers, Bears, and Lions. They have beat the Broncos, Packers, and Patriots. So 3 wins against teams that are probably worse off than the Raiders are. These 2 teams, the Giants are 1-3 on the road, and the Raiders are 2-1 at home. Vegas has the over-under at 37.5, and the Raiders are favored by 2 points. ESPN, though, has the Giants favored. We'll have to see how this pans out. You look at the Giants with the fact that they've got the worst offense. Raiders, they kind of have a middle-of-the-road defense. Raiders, their offense matched up with the Giants' defense. Then looking at both of these defenses matched up against each other, trying to pick one that's the better of the two. They're so close. Giants are 20th overall. Raiders are 19th. turnover differential goes in the Giants' favor. But these two teams barely score any points, and I think I'm going to rely on that with making my prediction for my score, but I am going to have the Giants winning. Just thinking about the numbers here. I'll have this game 16. Let's go ahead and lock in 16-10. Giants beat the Raiders on the road, and see how that works out. 16-10. Moving on to our next game, we have the Indianapolis Colts that are going to Carolina to take on the Panthers that just got their first win. The Indianapolis Colts, they are ranked number 23 on the NFL.com Power Rankings list. And they have a 3-5 record and are last in the AFC South. Carolina is ranked number 31 on the Power Rankings list with a 1-6 record and last in the AFC or NFC South. My bad. Sorry about that, guys. But starting off with the Colts offense, they have 362.4 total yards per game, 233.4 passing yards per game, 129 rushing yards per game, and they've scored 22 touchdowns this year. They have 25.6 points per game, which is 6th in the league, and that offensive line has only allowed 21 sacks. Anthony Richardson ended up getting injured. Gardner Minshew had to come in. Gardner Minshew has actually been doing decent. The numbers aren't that bad. The Colts are 13th in the league for passing offense, 9th in the league for rushing offense when it comes to yards. Overall, they are tied for 7th. And like I said, 22 touchdowns, 25.6 points per game. That is 6th in the league. Their offense is doing pretty good. Jonathan Taylor got figured out. Zach Moss ended up being an incredible pickup for them. It's crazy what ended up happening to this Colts team within just a matter of a year. I know that they still have a losing record, but there's so many more tangibles that are inside of it, more than the record, that I look at and I see a team that is at least they're looking up. They're not getting worse, they're getting better. So I'll be excited to see how that organization handles what's going on currently. On the other side, we have the Panthers offense, who has 284.6 total yards per game, 194.3 passing yards per game, 90.3 rushing yards per game. They have 11 touchdowns that they've scored, 9 receiving, and 2 rushing touchdowns. They have 18.1 points per game. That is 25th in the league, and the offensive line has allowed 25 sacks. Now, yards-wise, the Panthers are 24th in both passing and rushing yards per game, but overall they are 27th in the league. Some of these rankings are a little different, little weird, actually, to be more accurate about it, because of the fact of some teams are really good at passing and bad at rushing. Some teams are good at rushing and bad at passing. So the overall records get kind of mixed up, to say the least. But for the stat leaders in this matchup, the Colts, we got Gardner Minshew, Zach Moss, and Michael Pittman Jr. Carolina, we have Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, and Adam Thielen. Quarterbacks, Gardner Minshew, 128 completions on 202 attempts. Bryce Young is 137 completions on 213 attempts, 1,202 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions for him. The running backs, Zach Moss has 125 carries, 589 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He has been doing great for the Colts this year. Chuba Hubbard has 69 carries, 270 yards, and 1 touchdown. Not too good. Receiving, Michael Pittman Jr. has 50 catches for 528 yards, or 529 yards. Misread that. And 3 touchdowns this year. Adam Thielen has 57 catches, 581 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That is the offensive stat leaders. And honestly, these two offenses, turnover-wise, the Colts have 6 interceptions and 7 fumbles that they've given up. Panthers, they have 4 interceptions and 4 fumbles that they've given up. And I know that the Colts have more turnovers, but the production isn't there. The points per game isn't there. The Colts are putting up yards. They're putting up points. Even though they're turning the ball over, somehow they're figuring out how to get the ball back at least or something. And actually get points put up on the board. So between these two teams in this matchup, I'm going to go with the Colts for the offense. I feel like that's a clear winner. And moving on, for the defense, the Colts allowed 371.3 total yards per game, 247 passing yards per game, 124 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 24 touchdowns this year, 9 receiving and 15 rushing. They have allowed 28.6 points per game. That is the worst in the league. They are also the worst in the league when it comes to allowing rushing touchdowns. So, Colts might be good at running the ball, but they aren't that good at defending the run. Because 25th in the league, passing defense, 23rd rushing defense, 28th overall defense. Again, just numbers are weird. The Colts defense does have 21 sacks, though. So, they're getting pressure compared to the other teams in the league and what I see. Going over to the Panthers defense, their defense is actually not too bad when it comes to yards, but kind of like the Browns, when it comes to allowing points, they're bad at that. But the Panthers allow 326 total yards per game, 186.6 passing yards per game, 139.4 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 24 touchdowns this year, 10 receiving and 14 rushing. 28.4 points per game have been allowed. That is 30th in the league. And the defense only has 16 sacks. So it's a little bit on the lower side for getting to the quarterback and getting pressure. Turnovers for the defense. The Colts have 6 interceptions and 5 fumbles. The Panthers have 5 interceptions and 1 fumble. The Colts have 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown. The Panthers, they have 2 pick sixes. Now, the turnover differential, both teams are right at -2. The kickers, the Colts kicker is 14 for 16 on field goals, 21 for 21 on extra points, 21-21. That guy has 63 points. The Panthers kicker is 12 for 14 on field goals and 11 for 12 on extra points. He has 47 points this year. Down to the schedule, the Colts, they've lost to the Jags, Rams, Jags again, Browns, and Saints. The games they have won is against the Texans, Ravens, and Titans. So, tough game against the Ravens. Good job putting up a fight there. But other than that, looks about right for their schedule. The Panthers, they just got their first win against the Texans last week. They've lost against the Falcons, Saints, Seahawks, Vikings, Lions, and Dolphins. They're not doing that great this year. Bryce Young is doing all right. He's not doing anything special, but he's doing all right. I will give him credit because the direction that he is going in is a positive direction. But something they need to figure it out. They are in a bad situation considering that they don't have a first round pick. They did not try and sell or do anything at the trade deadline either. We'll have to see how the Panthers organization unfolds. But for this game alone, we're just going to stick to that. The Colts, they are 2-1 on the road, and the Carolina Panthers are 1-2 at home. Vegas has the over-under at 34.5, and the Colts are favored by 2.5. ESPN also has the Colts favored, and 2-1 on the road when the Carolina Panthers are 1-2 at home. They got that win. I feel like it was a lucky win. I'm going to go ahead and go with the Colts on this one. Look at how much points per game get allowed on defense. And look at how much points per game are scored. I'm definitely going to hit that over if I was a betting man. And score-wise, let me do the math here quick. Like 27 for the Colts. And, yeah, we'll go 27-17. And that's right over the over. That is 44 points. That is right over it. But, yeah, we'll go with that. Lock that in. 27-17, the Colts win on the road. Beat the Panthers. Game number 3 that we got, the last afternoon game, we have the Dallas Cowboys that are going to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. I feel like this one, I know that I said the other one is going to be the game to watch. This one's also a game to watch, even though I still feel like maybe that Seahawks-Ravens game might be something a little bit more to pay attention to. Just in case. Like, what if something happens to the Eagles? If something happens to the Eagles, who is going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? It's a really big question. And I feel like I'm a shitty person because I'm writing off certain teams as we're talking about a game. The Cowboys, I mean, if the Cowboys end up pulling off an upset in this one, that the respect kind of will change in the aspect they're on the road, going against the Eagles. But the prediction, ESPN has this right down the middle. But let's get into the numbers. Starting off with the offense, Cowboys, they have 338 total yards per game, 220.9 passing yards per game, 117.1 rushing yards per game. And they have 15 touchdowns, 10 receiving, 5 rushing. And that's 28.1 points per game. That is ranked second in the league. And they have a 97.2 QBR. That is 8th in the league. And the offensive line has allowed 18 sacks. I did decide to add in QBR later on, and that will definitely be a thing that stays in the future. So, sorry that I don't have them for the other ones, but I had to get these videos made. Already had my sheets made up. So, sorry, but next time I will have them for you guys. Now, Dak, Tony Pollard, this offense that's going on. With the numbers I just rattled off, Cowboys are 16th in the league when it comes to passing offense, 11th in the league with rushing offense, and 15th overall. Points per game, they're second. Quarterback rating, 8th in the league. So this offense is doing great. We'll have to see how it fares against the Eagles' defense. Definitely shaking in my boots because I have to start Tony Pollard this week. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I need to have him in my lineup. And the Eagles are number 1 in the league for rushing defense. It's kind of scary. But let's go over to the Eagles, and their offense has 387.4 total yards per game, 255.1 passing yards per game, and 132.3 rushing yards per game. They have 23 touchdowns this year and 28 points per game. That is third in the league. Right behind, they are 1 decimal point behind the Cowboys, so they might as well be side by side. But the Eagles have a 94.3 QBR. That is 11th in the league, and they have allowed 19 sacks. Turnover-wise, the Cowboys have given up 5 interceptions and 2 fumbles, and the Eagles have given up 8 interceptions and 5 fumbles. Let's go down and let's get the stat leaders for the offense. And for the Cowboys, we have Dak Prescott, Tony Pollard, and CeeDee Lamb. Eagles have Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, and A.J. Brown. For the quarterbacks, Dak has 157 completions on 221 attempts, 1,637 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Jalen Hurts has 193 completions on 282 yards, 2,140 yards, or 282 attempts, and 2,140 yards. Tripped over my words on that one. 13 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. For the running backs, Tony Pollard has 108 carries, 423 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift has 117 carries, 571 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Receivers, CeeDee Lamb has 46 catches, 633 yards, and 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown has 60 catches, 939 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He's almost hit that 1K mark. But if we're going to talk about this matchup, I'll actually dissect it a little bit more with this one because of how close that it is. Because literally 28 points per game, mid-90s QBR, right under 20 sacks allowed. And these two teams are putting up touchdowns. The Eagles have a little bit more trouble with turning the ball over on offense, though. But what my argument is going to be here, or not even really necessarily an argument, but my explanation of my opinion here is I'm going to take the Eagles' offense, even though they are worse with turnovers. But the reason why is because the Eagles' offense is ranked 7th in the league for both passing and rushing yards per game and 3rd overall for yards per game. So they have the scoring and the yards, and the Cowboys, again, foreshadowing. The Cowboys, 11th rushing yards per game. They are going against the best rushing defense in the league. If there's any team to stop the run, it's going to be the Eagles. But with that, picking the Eagles side for the offense, let's move on to the defense. The Cowboys, they allow 287.4 total yards per game, 178.6 passing yards per game, and 108.9 rushing yards per game. They have allowed 14 touchdowns this year, 9 receiving and 5 rushing. They've allowed 17.1 points per game, and that is 4th in the league. and they've allowed 75.9. They've allowed a QBR of 75.9, which is third in the league, and that defense has 18 sacks. I hope everybody's gonna enjoy that I started adding in QBR. And Micah Parsons, he's doing his thing. Dexter Lawrence is out there for the Cowboys, right? Or am I getting the wrong one? No, don't tell me I got the wrong guy. Yeah, I did. I was thinking of DeMarcus Lawrence. Trayvon Diggs, unfortunately, still out. He is on the IR. I actually need to look into that. I don't know if he out for the year. I'll have to check in on that, and I'm gonna do another separate video on some of the injuries that are more serious and if they are going to return, because I don't know if this is anywhere true or not, but there's also talk around the water cooler of Aaron Rodgers coming back. Now, I don't want to believe that, but if he does, that would be absolutely crazy. Guy's got balls of steel if he does that. But getting back into this game, let's get back to the game. The Eagles defense, they allow 313 total yards per game. They allow 247.95 passing yards per game and 65.5 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 19 touchdowns this year. They allow 21.5 points per game, and that is 19th in the league. And a quarterback rating of 97.2 is allowed. That is 25th in the league, and they got 25 sacks. So, both these defenses are good in their own respects, but the big thing that sticks out is the fact that we've got Dak Prescott over there for Dallas, and that 97.2 quarterback rating that is allowed by the Eagles defense. It's alarming, and kind of makes me hesitant. I am going to pick over on the defensive side. I am going to pick the Cowboys. So the Cowboys have the better defense. The Eagles have the better offense. We'll see the matchup in there. Or maybe the Cowboys end up besting the rushing defense. So that's just something to pay attention to. Turnover-wise, the Cowboys have 9 interceptions and 4 fumbles on defense. The Eagles have 4 interceptions and 6 fumbles on defense. The Cowboys have 1 fumble recovery touchdown, 3 pick sixes, and 1 safety. And the Eagles have 1 pick six and 1 safety. Turnover differentials for this team are very different. The Cowboys are +6 and the Eagles are -3. Definitely something to watch out for with that then, considering the fact it's almost a positive turnover differential to have a turnover per game over the other team. They are like averaged over, but I'm doing a little algorithm in my head where it's like take the total amount and then divide that. That's something else. That's another video. I gotta keep on moving for this, and let's talk about the kickers. Cowboys, their kicker is 18 for 18 on field goals and 17 for 18 on extra points. He has 71 points this year. And the Eagles, Jake Elliott is 18 for 20 on field goals and 22 for 23 on extra points. He has 76 points this year. Schedule-wise, the Cowboys, they have lost to the Cardinals and the 49ers. 49ers, kind of expected. Cardinals, again, fluke game. They beat the Cowboys have beat the Giants, Jets, Chargers, Rams, and Patriots. So, good wins there. A couple of them, obvious ones, but good wins there. Over on the Eagles side, the only loss that they have is where they couldn't get anything going in the second half against the Jets, and the Jets were just able to move the ball enough to put points on the board and get a dub out of that. But the Eagles have beat the Patriots, Rams, Vikings, Bucks, Dolphins, and the Commanders twice. Dallas is 2-2 on the road, and the Eagles have yet to lose at home. So that really kind of make things really weird. And who knows? Like, a couple of people that are, I know definitely Dallas Cowboys fans are going to be on my side with this one. But I feel like there might be an upset in Philly because of the fact that the defense is good. We've got turnover ratio for the Cowboys. And also the fact of the Eagles allowing such a high quarterback rating. So those are my three keys to this game. Going in a little bit deeper because of the fact we've got a potential, like, this could be leader of the, like, top dog in the NFC East. Like, Eagles, if they win, they still hold on to their number one spot. Dallas Cowboys, they win. I feel like the Dallas Cowboys next week on the power rankings list should be the highest ranked NFC team. But we will see. But my prediction, I'm going to go ahead and take the gamble on the Cowboys. If they end up winning, I'm right. Goddamn. Both teams have 28 points per game, so that means that's 56 points. I feel like I feel like they're definitely going to hit the over. I feel like one team's going to get into the 30s and the other one's just going to get their average. So, yeah, I'm going to go with, like, 34 Cowboys, 28 Eagles. The 28 points per game, hit it right there on the head, Eagles. And for an upset, go ahead and lock that in. 34 to 28, Cowboys upset the Eagles in Philadelphia. And now we have the Sunday night football game. The last game for Sunday, and the last game for this video. But there will be one more video after this. We have one more video left for the Monday night football game. So go ahead and check that out. That should be dropping around like 9, 10 in the morning. Tomorrow. Give you guys plenty of time to go over it. But for the Sunday night football game, we have the Buffalo Bills that are ranked number 9th on the NFL.com power rankings list with a 5-3 record and second in the AFC East. The Bengals, they are ranked number 11 on the NFL.com power ranking list with a 4-3 record and last in the AFC North. That's probably the highest ranking of any team that is last place in their division. AFC North is crazy. But getting into the offense, the Bills, they have 376.9 total yards per game, 263.8 passing yards per game, and 113.1 rushing yards per game. They have scored 26 touchdowns this year, 17 receiving, and 9 rushing. They have 27.8 points per game, which is 4th in the league, and 101.5 QBR this year, which is 6th in the league. And the offensive line has only allowed 12 sacks. Josh Allen, let me tell you a story about inconsistency. Actually, I don't even think that we have enough time. I've already said this in multiple videos. I'm pretty sure literally the last 3 weeks in matchups I've talked about inconsistency. But Josh Allen went and balled out the other week. This time, I don't I feel like Cincinnati is on a different turn. Joe Burrow is healthy. The calf is looking good. And since the offense is starting to produce, that defense is starting to wake up a little bit. And the Bengals are going to start winning games. This game, I mean, they are at home. They've got the turnover differential, but we'll get to that. But the Bills, like, number one key thing on the Bills, I gotta say, is Josh Allen's consistency. Which Josh Allen are we gonna get? Moving over to the Bengals side, their offense has 276.9 total yards per game, 197.9 passing, and 79 rushing yards per game. They have 12 touchdowns, 10 receiving, and 2 rushing. They have 27.8 points per game, which is 24th in the league. What? Or no, 4th in the league. Tied for 4th. Both teams tied for points per game. I don't know what I typed there. Sorry. Just moving forward, 27.8 points per game and tied for 4th. But the Bengals QBR, 87.2. That is 17th in the league. And that offensive line has allowed 17 sacks this year. But these numbers, I feel like, are just going to keep on getting better. Buffalo's going to stay the same on their little up and down kind of roller coaster thing. But at least the up and down roller coaster has them on the winning side. They do have a winning record. They're second in the AFC East, yardage-wise. 4th in the league for passing yards, 14th for rushing, and 5th overall. Bengals, they are 23rd for passing, 29th for rushing, and 28th overall for offense. Gonna pick one of these offenses, though. I'm gonna go with the Bills side if we're going with stats and how things have been going, because I just want to be confident with it. The Bills offense is the one that I would go with. Bengals have a lot to prove, and hopefully Joe Burrow stays healthy most of all. Let's get into the stat leaders for these guys. All these guys are healthy. For the Bills, we got Josh Allen, James Cook, and Stephon Diggs. For the Bengals, we have Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase. The quarterbacks, Josh Allen has 205 completions on 286 attempts for 2,165 yards. He has 17 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Joe Burrow, he has 175 completions on 264 attempts, 1,513 yards, 10 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. The running backs, James Cook has 102 carries, 486 yards, and 1 touchdown. Joe Mixon, he has 112 carries, 453 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The receivers, Stephon Diggs, he's got 64 receptions, 64 receptions. I've not said that once. 64 catches, 748 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 60 catches, 656 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I mean, receptions does work, but kind of feels weird. And on that offense, turnover-wise, I don't know if I said it or not, but in case I didn't, turnover-wise, the Bills have 8 interceptions and 4 fumbles they've given up. Bengals have 4 interceptions and 2 fumbles that they've given up. Even with that, I'm still picking the Bills offense. So, go with that. And moving on, let's get into the defense. On the Bills side, they allowed 326.1 total yards per game, 204.1 passing yards per game, and 122 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 13 touchdowns this year, 8 receiving and 5 rushing. They've only allowed 17 points per game. That is 3rd in the league. And a quarterback rating of 85.4 is allowed. That is 13th in the league. The Bills have 28 sacks on defense, so that's pretty good. Von Miller's still out there being an animal. Tre'Davious White is definitely a factor. All of these guys. All those guys are good in their own respect. And over on the Bengals side, they allow 370.7 total yards per game, 232.1 passing yards per game, 138.6 rushing yards per game. They've allowed 16 touchdowns this season, 9 receiving, and 7 rushing. They allow 20.6 points per game. That is tied for 16th in the league. But for a quarterback rating, they only allow 81.7. That is 8th in the league, and they have 21 sacks over there. Yardage isn't very good on the Bengals side. Now, the Bengals defense might have a little bit of an increase because of the production on the offense. Everybody knows that you can see that there. And we'll just have to watch. Again, this is just something that we'll have to watch and see if it unfolds. I feel like the Bengals are going to start winning, but more and more that I get into this, because I'm going to pick the Bengals, or not the Bengals, I'm going to pick the Bills defense. Turnovers for these guys. Bills have 8 interceptions and 6 fumbles. Bengals have 10 interceptions and 3 fumbles. Bills have 1 pick six. Bengals also have a pick six. But the Bengals have a punt return. Got that added in and made sure that to get those two for special teams if someone got a kick return or a punt return. Going down, let's get to the kickers. Because, the turnover differential for the Bills is +2. And for the Bengals, it's +7. So the Bengals have the turnover differential. That's just in case I didn't say that. I think I did, but maybe not. But Buffalo's kicker, 11 for 14 on field goals, 25 for 25 extra points. He has 58 points this year. Evan McPherson, he's 11 for 14 on field goals and 14 for 14 on extra points. He has 47 points this year. Going to the schedule, the Bills, they've lost to the Jets, Jags, and Patriots. That Patriots loss was questionable. Josh Allen thought that the Jets defenders were his wide receivers for some reason in week 1. And again, Jaguars, red hot. One of my AFC favorites. Wouldn't even be mad if we saw Bengals, Jags, AFC championship. That would be a clean change of pace, honestly, in my opinion. But they have beat the Raiders, Commanders, Giants, and Buccaneers, and Dolphins. The only ones that impress me there is that they beat the Dolphins and the Buccaneers. All right. Moving over to the Bengals, they lost to the Browns, Ravens, Titans. They have won against the Rams, 49ers, Seahawks, and Cardinals. And they have won the last 3 in a row. Again, Joe Burrow starting to get back to his old form. We're definitely going to be seeing that. All right. Buffalo is 1-2 on the road. Bengals are 2-1 at home. I feel like both those records get evened up. I'm gonna take. I took the offense and the defense to the Bills side. I know the Bengals are home, and Burrow is on the uphill, and these rankings are kind of not accurate, especially with a quarterback of that caliber and how he was performing early in the year. But I'm going to make it close. The over-under for this is 50.5, and the Bengals are favored by 2. ESPN has the Bills favored. So, actually, I'm on ESPN's side. And 28 points per game on both sides, basically. So we're going to hit an over on this one. I feel like also Josh Allen might have another good game. Joe Burrow is healthier. We might see these are good games that are going to be on today. Yeah, I really hope that everybody enjoys these games. So I'm gonna get like the Bills 38, um, Bills 38, Bengals 31. Go ahead and lock that in. 38-31, Bills beat the Bengals on the road. Go ahead and do that. And before I do my outro, I didn't do it with the noon games, but I'll go through in here and we'll actually get the injury report. The first game, let's go back to the Colts and Panthers game. Start off with the guys that are out. The Colts have Juju Brents, Braden Smith are out. Zaire Franklin is doubtful. Rodney Thomas and Josh Downs are questionable. Watch for those guys. Just pay attention. This is also, like, I'm going to post it, but I'm recording this Saturday night, Sunday morning. The Panthers, Clouden, Cherilus, Justin Houston are on IR. Von Bell is questionable. Dante Jackson and DJ Chark are questionable. So look out for those guys and see how those guys end up. Next one, let's go to the Giants and Raiders injury report. And for the Giants, we got Graham Gano that's on the IR, Darren Waller's on the IR, and Tyrod Taylor's on the IR. Joshawn Corbin and Andrew Thomas are questionable. Look out for those guys. On the Raiders, Thayer Munford, Jacob Johnson, Luke Masterson, and Divine Diablo are all out. Robert Spillane is questionable, though. Pay attention to that and see if he starts. Next one, Dallas Cowboys and the Eagles. The Dallas Cowboys, they've got Tyron Smith that is questionable. Eagles, they've got Cam Jurgens on the IR. And then Roby, Grant Calcaterra, and Boston Scott. Those guys are all ruled out. Don't plan on them being in the game tomorrow. In the last game, to the Bills and Bengals. The Bills, they have Kyer Elam that is on IR. AJ Klein and Balon Spector are ruled out. And the Bengals, Tyson Anderson is on IR. Josh Tuopo is out. And Joe Mixon, Akeem Davis Gaither, and Matt Sharping are all questionable. So, and that is going to be it for part 2 of the Sunday games. Again, hope everybody enjoyed the video. Also, hit that like button if you had fun watching it. Go ahead and explore the other content on my channel if you want to. Again, there's a lot of playlists that I've got set up. Hit the subscribe button if you like the content. Hope everybody has a good day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully I have a good Sunday. Be kind and respectful to others, and most of all, be kind and respectful to yourself. You're the number one person in this world. Nobody matters more than you two. You do. You too as well, also. Thanks, guys. See you next time.